Okay, hello and welcome to the podcast studio, where we're going to offer you a 10-minute preview of a podcast which will be uploaded to the channel at some point soon. Today I'm joined by two more wonderful industry professionals, and we're going to be talking about their journeys in the industry. So why don't we start with you? Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yep, sure. My name is Timi Oladeji. I'm a scan operator or scan technician, and I work with DO. We work at Pinewood Studios.
Mm-hmm. What goes into that?
Scanning.
Sorry?
Sorry.
No, I was just saying all right. Sorry.
No, that's all right. So but my job as a scan operator, essentially what we do is we digitize film celluloid. So that covers Super 8, Super 16, Standard 16, 35mm, all the various gauges, and 65 and IMAX. And essentially what we're doing is we're trying to capture all the signal that's been captured on the negative, via the DPs and the camera team on set. And we're trying to preserve as much information as possible and in the scan. And then we create deliverables and then send that to production and to the wider team. And essentially, we're digitizing the image that's already captured in the negative. So a lot of DPs still use film out there.
That sounds really fascinating. How did you end up on that career path? How did you get into scanning?
Good question. So my background was initially fine art. So when I was going back to school and going back to college, and photography. So I've always had a love for photography, all things exposure. I didn't actually study photography. I studied design when I was in school. But along the way, I'd always practiced photography. So I started off in the digital realm. So bought my first camera, Canon 450D, I believe. About 15 years ago now.
Wow.
Started taking pictures, learning the basics of exposure, the exposure triangle, ISO, aperture, shutter speed. And then along the way, I sort of graduated to film because I had a keen interest in film. And by film, I mean analog film. So I started shooting analog film. Again, along the way, I started taking professional work. So I started doing some wedding shoots, corporate shoots. Then I branched into videography. And then from there, started self-producing my own short films, which you'll never see the light of day. But branched into motion picture, or my attempt to get into motion picture. And then through that work, I got into dailies. So dailies with Digital Orchard, my current employer. And dailies did that for about a year. I'll let Nico get into that as well if he touches on it. But dailies essentially entails us taking all the data that's been captured on set, getting it ready for the editorial team, and then archiving it to sort of cut it short. And then from dailies, after I did that stint, then I moved on to scanning. So because I had experience working with film celluloid on a photography level, I was quite keen actually to get into motion picture scanning. And the rest is history. Sort of 3-4 years ago, got into that, and we've worked on, not just worked, but we work on, as I mentioned at the start, all types of productions, your home videos, Super 8, to promos, to high-end commercials, to feature films, all shot on film, various gauges as well. Yeah.
That sounds fascinating. What about you? Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, so I'm Nico, Nico Corfield. My pronouns are they, them, and I am a DIT and video assistant working on set spaces.
Wow. How did you get into that?
So I started out when I was younger. Funnily enough, Simon Brett, who brought us here today, got me into the film industry, really intrigued me with what was going on with it. And I realised that's what I wanted to do. So started looking more into photography, videography, that kind of stuff when I was sort of 14, 15, say that. And then went to college at Exeter and studied there for 2 years, sort of learned the basics, understanding what I was doing. And then after that, went to university I'm at UCA Farnham, University of the Creative Arts, and did 3 years there, mostly because I needed the social skills, and I was not good at that. And again, as Timi quite lovely put, most of the films will never see the light of day. But I then spent 3 years specialising in camera at the university, and then I got offered the job at Digital Orchard to work in their kit room as their kit room trainee. So that would involve building DIT and video rigs from the ground up, and troubleshooting software, hardware issues, making sure that technicians who are prepping for jobs, whether that be tiniest indie films or high-end full budget films, would be able to capably do their jobs. And then about a year ago, it's coming up to a year now, I then left Digital Orchard as a salaried employee and joined their on-set teams.
Wow. That sounds incredibly interesting. So how would you say your work for Digital Orchard affects your home life?
So, film is, you have to put 110% in. You have to be on it. You have to be constantly looking for the next thing.
Yeah.
That is the unfortunate side of it, because often you are a freelancer working within this industry. You have to understand that you may not get that next job that's offered to you. It might go to someone else who's offering different rates, that kind of thing. But at the same time, it is a very rewarding industry to be in. I would say that you have to be willing to make sacrifices, but also not sacrifice yourself as a person to do this job. But if anyone's wanting to get into this industry, I'd recommend it. It's great fun. You do some amazing work with some absolutely brilliant people, and you see some brilliant things as well.
I can absolutely imagine. I mean, it's such a demanding industry, but the reward that you get out of it, I also have been told, is really just makes it all worth it. Yeah, that does sound incredibly interesting. Did you always see yourself going into film?
At first, I wanted to be an actor, which is the stupidest thing in the world now, to me. But I've always been a creative person. I was always into photography like Timi. Started out with a Nikon D3300 when was my first camera, and then moved into sort of celluloid film, working with 16mm 35s. And then I'm also a musician. I do art and stuff like that, and it's just the way I was almost steered towards it with my interest in motion picture and the world that was created around it, and the fun that could be had, but also the feeling of rewarded. Yes, it's long shifts. Yes, it's hard work. Again, Timi can attest to this. Even in the scanning room, you're doing long stints.
Yeah.
Just sat there making sure that each frame is perfect. But by the end of it, you feel so happy with what you've done.
I can absolutely understand that. I'm afraid we're going to have to take a pause in our interview to say that we're going to cut back to the studio shortly, but in about 10 minutes. But soon enough, you can find this interview available on YouTube in its in its entirety. Thank you very much. Okay, sorry, we're having some difficulties. I don't know if we're on. They're off us. Okay, sorry, I thought you went 3, 2, 1.